Hey guys, what is up? Good morning. Welcome to another edition of BOM-BITES, a service brought to you by B.O.M Socks. Welcome, I'm Derek from B.O.M Socks. We are currently broadcasting from B.O.M Socks HQ. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We've got your green going on today, although I don't think anybody's pinching anybody today, so I think you're good. Just jumping into our BOM-BITES, where we are here to help you feast upon the words of Christ one bite at a time. We are going to look at Jacob chapter 5. Now, the cool thing about Jacob chapter 5, again, we talked yesterday, Jacob chapter 4 comes right before it, and that's where Jacob talks about this idea of, I will unfold this mystery unto you, of how it is that the Jews or any member of the house of Israel, after having rejected Christ, will be able to someday build on him again. And so what we're going to do, let me get my scriptures here. So we're going to look into Jacob chapter 5. So Jacob chapter 5, first of all, I want to focus on a guy by the name of Zenos. Oh, Zenos is amazing. Zenos, keep in mind, this is not Jacob's allegory. This is Zenos's allegory. Zenos is amazing. I wish we knew more about him. Zenos was an Old Testament prophet. There's some cool stuff in your guide to the scriptures. So Zenos, Old Testament prophet, but nobody knows about him because he has been taken out very carefully by Satan, and some of those scribes back in the day pulling Zenos's records out of there. Apparently it was so amazing that people felt like he needed to be pulled out of there. All plain and precious things gone. He talks so much about Jesus Christ, at least what we know about him from the Book of Mormon, which again, another reason I'm grateful for the Book of Mormon, as Zenos' words have been brought to life. So Zenos, he taught about Jesus Christ, he taught about his crucifixion, he taught about the destruction and his death, he talked about redemption coming through him. Alma gives a wonderful discourse on prayer and worship in Alma 33 that is from Zenos. And again, you've got this olive tree allegory, which Jacob wrote down on the plate, 77 verses worth, at least for us right there. In Helaman, I think it's chapter 8, it's talked about how Zenos was slain for his bold testimony of Jesus Christ. So just a little plug for Zenos. I wanted to give him a little bit of press there for a minute because this allegory is his, and Jacob loved it enough, he shared it with us. So another thing to understand about this allegory, it has absolutely nothing to do with trees. Even though it is an olive tree allegory, it is richly symbolic. And you don't need to know a lot about gardening or gospel horticulture, but there are a few things we do need to understand. And we're just going to hit a couple verses right here, starting actually in verse number 3. In chapter 5, it says, "For behold, thus saith the Lord, I will liken thee, O house of Israel." That is us. I'm going to liken you unto a tame olive tree, which a man, this man here is Jesus Christ, took and nourished in his vineyard, and it grew, and it waxed old, and it began to decay. And again, if we are the trees, then decay is sin or apostasy. So again, I asked you yesterday to think about individuals who, and they may not be involved in sinful behavior, but they they don't believe right now. And how is it that they are going to build upon Jesus Christ if they don't believe in him? So verse number 4 has some great stuff in it. "It came to pass that the master of the vineyard went forth, and he saw that his olive tree began to decay," like we just talked about. He said, "I will prune it and dig about it and nourish it, that perhaps it might shoot forth young and tender branches, and it perisheth not." And a couple verses later, it talks about grafting it. So those 4 things I want to focus on for a minute: pruning, digging, grafting, and nourishing. And I think those things, not only do they apply to regular gardening, they apply to us as members of covenant Israel that are doing our absolute best, but who fall on occasion. First of all, pruning, it's kind of fun. I would invite you, again, pruning, digging, grafting, and nourishing. If you will study those things out a little bit, you'll have a good experience with this. Let me just give you a little bit of a taste of it, a little bite. So pruning, the definition is to reduce superfluous matter by cutting it away. Superfluous means unnecessary. So oftentimes the Lord of the vineyard will prune us, which cuts away unnecessary things from our lives. And so that causes me to start thinking, okay, what are some unnecessary things that are keeping me from growing properly. They might not even be sinful behaviors, but they just are superfluous. They're unnecessary. And so pruning is a necessary it's a necessary thing if you are going to have a healthy garden or a healthy tree. Number 2 is digging. Digging means to break up, to prepare, and to bring to surface or to light. So there are things that the Lord will do to dig about us, to break up things that have been growing there, to change some root systems that need to be changed, and to prepare us for other things, whether that's missionary service or marriage or a patriarchal blessing or whatever it is. He'll dig about and help us with that and bring other things to surface. Grafting. Oh, grafting we could talk for days about. It is to join, implant for the purpose of uniting one thing to another. Yeah, wish there was a gospel principle there, right? So grafting, there are oftentimes, many of you have been moved from one place to another. Missionaries are grafted into new areas. It's transplanting groups of people to increase the likelihood that they will respond to the blessings and opportunities of the gospel. And so there are times where we are grafted to certain places where we can bless others. There are times where others are grafted into our lives. Grafting is a spiritual principle. Then the last one is nourishing. Now, in the olive tree allegory, there's a couple of verses, verse 47 and 64. You can look them up, but the Lord of the vineyard uses one thing to nourish, and it is dung. Yeah. Dung. If you don't need to look up dung. Hopefully we have an idea of what dung is. This is where I'd put a little poop emoji right there if I could, but maybe another time. So dung. Oh, the power of dung in our lives. Let me read to you a little story right here that I think helps us understand the power of dung. This was in a BYU devotional a couple years ago. It is called The Smell of Manure. I think you'll appreciate this. On my way to visit the Jameses the other evening, and I'll include this, by the way, in the notes, so you can copy this if you need to. On my way to visit the Jameses the other evening, I saw a wheat field that appeared to be greener and taller than the others. Thinking about it for a while, I concluded that occasionally some loving farmer drives over the field with his tractor and pumps manure all over it. I thought, it's just like life. Here we are, minding our own business, growing our little hearts out. We're really quite green and quite productive and very sincere when out of the blue, life deals us a dirty one and we are up to our eyebrows in manure. We, of course, conclude that life as we know it has just ended and will never be the same again. But one day, when the smell and the shock are gone, we find ourselves greener and more productive than we've ever been. Unfortunately, no matter how often we go through these growing experiences, we're never able to appreciate the sound of the tractor or the smell of the manure. Isn't that, it's kind of spiritual talking about dung, right? But the idea is there's a lot of things in our life we look at as dung. And what do they often do if we will allow it? Just because manure gets pumped on you doesn't necessarily mean you're going to grow. That whole phrase, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, I don't fully buy that. I think sometimes it can really devastate someone. Trials can mess with people, but it's us that makes the decision on how we're going to handle it. So that's just up through verse 4, people. There's a lot going on here. And tomorrow, I really want to focus on how this allegory covers a lot of history, and we're going to hit it briefly, very briefly. But this allegory really is about a story of love and a story of patience and a story of compassion. And you'll see that tomorrow as we continue with the olive tree allegory. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging with us. You guys have an amazing day. And remember, Lord of the Vineyard loves you. I know that's true. Have a great day. See ya. Bye-bye.